Hello, welcome to Tales from the Bridge. My name is Tristan.
I'm Ryan.
My name is James.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sam.
There's a lot of us on the show today because we are celebrating our 150th episode. We've been doing this for 5 years and we're super happy to have you here today.
And as we often do, we're going to do a little bit of science fiction, science fact. So we're going to talk about something timely related to some spacey things.
We'll be chatting about what we've been reading lately, what we've been seeing lately at the cinema.
And we're going to have a little mind meld while talking about some of our favorite moments over the last 149 episodes. Our favorite books, films, interviews. It's been a lot of fun.
And as always, visit us at talesfromthebridge.com to rate and review the episodes, and always tell a friend, and make sure to leave a comment where you can recommend the next thing we should read or watch. Recommendations are always welcome.
And we want to give a big thank you to all of our listeners for hanging out for the last 5 years and taking in our thoughts on sci-fi books and film and our interviews. Now, let's make our way over to the bridge.
So I know it's our 150th episode special, but I still feel like we need to do a little science fiction, science fact. So if you guys will bear with me, there's a very timely news story that I think most of us have heard about and is only moderately exciting to some of us because it just seems so boring and we've done this before and all this kind of stuff. But I think it relates really nicely to some other science fiction. And it is the Artemis 2 launch, which at time of recording is happening. Our astronauts are currently orbiting the Earth, and they're running some tests, and they're getting ready to do their insertion burn to head towards the moon out of Earth orbit. Well, I guess they're still in Earth orbit, but they're going into the moon's semi-orbit. And that's pretty exciting, right? We haven't had humans go to the moon for a long, long time, and they're heading back now. But did you guys hear that there's been some drama on Artemis 2? Yes, so drama.
Like among the crew?
Amongst well, I mean, parts of the crew.
I heard their poop machine broke.
Yeah, their poop machine did break, but specifically, poop is okay. Apparently, it's the wee. So there's like a fan that sucks the wee out of the. Anyway, it was not working. So they would do their business, their number one, and it would float about because the fan that's supposed to suck it away didn't. So they had wee floatage, as far as I understand.
Wait, there's piss floating around in the spaceship?
It's unclear, but that was the implication.
Well, is it clear or is it what color?
Yeah.
Depends on how hydrated they are, I guess.
Yeah. That's a tough break, right? Right up, you get to know each other really quickly right away.
Well, you also are going to be, if you're a first-time astronaut and like you really have to go and you're like, oh man, here it comes, and you're saying, okay, everybody, you're in a very enclosed space and you have to go do number one, and then you just wee on all your astronaut friends.
Yeah, that's a tough start.
It is a tough start.
Yeah.
The design of the toilet on the Artemis is literally the only thing that managed to find its way into my TikTok algorithm. So I'm immensely disappointed that my only knowledge of this floor toilet that they have is seemingly the worst part of this mission.
It is sad.
I also feel bad that we're dedicating so much time on this really positive thing that's happening to discuss this tiny failure. Like, this is a pretty cool event. Maybe we should stop focusing on the urine.
Oh,
yeah, we got to
If we
mention.
have to. I just wonder who peed, whose pee everyone's having to deal with.
Okay, I tried. You guys heard it. I tried. You guys brought it back again. Like,
I was thinking the same thing, Sam.
Yeah, I don't want to be that dude, right? Like, or woman who is, was like, oh, that's you. And we're 8 feet away from each other for how long is the mission? What is that?
10 days?
8 days?
10 days?
10 days?
Yeah.
I could tell you it is not Jeremy Henson, the mission specialist, because Canadians don't piss on their allies and friends.
Oh,
Ooh,
nice.
Nice.
Wow. There we go.
That was the whole setup.
Well played.
Fired.
Well, just thinking about the mission itself, I think it's pretty exciting. Like, I'm not super into like all the rockets going off. I know some people that really are. But I do find it interesting. It was neat waking up today. So the Artemis went off yesterday, last night. And I found it interesting today, waking up and then being reminded of the mission and just thinking for the first time in a long time, there are people leaving Earth. Like this has just not happened. We usually just go up and we're in orbit a few hundred miles. I don't even like maybe thousands of miles, but not really. Like right now, they're 70,000 miles away from Earth. That's crazy. And they're going to the moon. Something about that just feels interesting to just know that right now there are people leaving Earth and going further away. And I imagine that was a really interesting feeling back in the 60s and early 70s that we've brought back. So I don't know.
Well, you're right. And this mission, they are going to go farther away from Earth than any human ever has. So they're going to go 253,000 miles away from Earth. And that is farther away than the distance record set by Apollo 13 in 1970. So that's cool.
And this is sort of part two of a several phased or multi-phased set of missions. Is that right, Kevin?
That's right. Yeah, this is the one where this is like a proving ground for the technology, just like Artemis 1 was. Then they will come back, hopefully safe, and then they will do another mission. I think it's Artemis 3 that will attempt to land, and then there'll be people on Earth, and I think the goal is to create permanent space stations on the surface of the moon.
Right. So the first one, it was uncrewed, right? And
That's right.
And it came back down. There's some issues with the heat shielding or something like that.
I think it was okay.
Yeah.
That was the Boeing one that had some problems.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the Artemis ones have been good.
Because this one is like pilot heavy. If you notice, like three of the four crew are like F-18 like fighter pilots. Like they come from that sort of world. So it's less. I know they're doing science and that sort of thing, but it feels like, yeah, we're going to see if this thing can fly. But I thought when the first one came down that there was some issue that they maybe with heat shielding or something else that they solved. But that was sort of proved the whole phased idea that you don't risk human life right away, and then you kind of go. Then do a crude flyby, make sure it flies well, and then you get into the landing stages. And that seems a lot more sensible than if you look at the risks they took back in the 60s. But I'm no
Yeah, that's
expert on that.
NASA's MO. They take it real safe. In fact, I think actually Artemis 3 is not going to be a landing. It will be manned, but it won't be a landing. It's Artemis 4 they're finally going to land on it. And that one they're aiming for early 2028. Well, there is good tie-ins to science fiction too, though. Very timely author right now, Andy Weir, who, of course, his book has just been made into a major motion picture, Project Hail Mary, which I went to see and I thought was exciting and fun. He also wrote a book called Artemis, and it was about a settlement on the moon. It was an exciting book. I don't think it was nearly as good as The Martian and Project Hail Mary, but he wrote a book about the moon and he named it Artemis.
Are there any other films or movies that you guys think are worth talking about the moon?
I think it actually just something I started watching recently. I know I'm really behind on it, but For All Mankind on Apple definitely brings all of this to mind, right? The alternate history show about if Russia had been the first to land a man on the moon and the idea that the space race never stopped, right? And what that sort of looked like. It's fantastic. Definitely a nice basis in science with some healthy dose of some fiction thrown in. If anyone hasn't given it a watch, definitely do. If you have any love at all or interest in modern day space travel, it's fantastic. And also just reminded me that it's been, 50 years since we've sent people to the moon? Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, more than a big deal, for sure.
I've been circling that series. So would you give it a recommendation?
Oh, absolutely. For a number of reasons. I mean, the science is the basis for the whole thing, but there's also like big political and social elements and themes woven throughout the whole thing. Quite good. And the other nice thing about the way that it's designed as a show, just aesthetically, is they've woven in a lot of real video and audio from real historical events and newsreels and things that they've threaded throughout it to make it feel very real. It's so good. Very, very strong production.
I hear that it's fantastic. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there's a kind of an inside joke among people that love the Expanse series that say that For All Mankind is the prequel to the Expanse. Have you guys heard that?
Oh, really?
Oh,
That's
you,
It
interesting. I could
it's
see
you
that.
not,
sold me
but
on it
like a
now.
lot of people are like, it totally is.
That's really interesting. Well, especially in especially later seasons, I guess the political piece of it also really would lend itself to heading in that direction. That's great. I love that tie-in.
Wouldn't it
Cool.
be awesome if that's where that show went?
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of neat about it. It's like everyone wants that to be real.
Come on, The Expanse.
I always like to take every opportunity I can to date myself on this show, so I'm going to do it again. And this show that I'm going to mention is not historical fiction, although it is kind of by default historical now. Do you guys remember the series Space 1999?
Oh
Was
yeah.
it from
Like
1999?
this is well, no,
No.
it's from 1975 actually. So this is like pre-Star Wars, just after Star Trek, probably heavily inspired by the success of the original Star Trek. But I don't remember a lot of details about this show, but I remember the feeling of watching it as a kid because it was far out. It was very weird and very strange. And the moon connection, for those of you who don't know this show, I guess it was a British show. And it was Jerry Anderson who was behind it, who I guess did Thunderbirds too, I think, which is something I didn't really watch. But
And I do have to insert there, we've had Jamie Anderson, the son of Jerry Anderson, on our show. So
nice.
if you do like Thunderbirds and Space 1999, we talk about it with Jamie Anderson in an episode in October 2022. So check the archives on talesfromthebridge.com to find that.
Well done, nice tie-in. But yeah, this show, like, it only ran for 2 seasons, and it was typically sort of low tech for the 70s, but it was kind of crazy, and it involved, the plot had something to do with people living on the moon. There was a base there in the year 1999, probably partying or something, and it was in a place called Moonbase Alpha. But then there was this huge explosion, of course, caused by radioactive waste that flung the moon out of Earth orbit and out of the solar system even. And I don't remember a lot of detail, but I do remember, and I think they're kind of iconic at this point, the spaceships that they called the Eagle. And they looked kind of realistic. Like they had a little bit of that Star Wars beat up, workhorse feeling. And in fact, I think there is even a tie-in. There's, if you dig deep enough, there's a tie-in behind the original design of the Millennium Falcon. And it was just too close to the Eagle. I think it was the Ralph McQuarrie original drawings. And it was just too close. It was long and skinny. And so it was changed to this sort of flat hamburger shape. But Space 1999. I think I'm inspired to try to find that somewhere and have a rewatch.
I do love that show. I've seen that before. Watched it when I was a kid, and then watched it again because my brother also likes it. Love it. And a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually a prequel to The Expanse.
Really?
Speaking of
Nice.
prequels to The Expanse, remember that book we read, When the Moon Hits Your Eye by John Scalzi?
Oh yeah.
When the
Oh,
moon
yeah.
turned into cheese. I wonder if our Artemis folk are gonna go sample some cheese on the way there and back.
That'd be a good idea.
That is, yeah.
Sorry, I won't do that. Won't do that. We'll stop.
I think I've just been thinking about the Artemis launch in terms of like all sci-fi movies, like just seeing all of the footage just makes me, or even you guys mentioning, oh, hey, something went wrong. I didn't know. My mind immediately went to like scenes from Gravity with a a big asteroid field coming through and mucking things up, or Life, where they found like an alien specimen. Even like we saw pictures of the control room yesterday from the Artemis, and that looks nothing like Apollo 13, right? It looks like a conference room at the head office of Canadian Tire. This is not what I associate with high-tech space flight, but the movies are leading us astray.
A conference room at Canadian Tire. I love that.
That's fantastic. Well,
Some real effort was made there to make that a Canadian tie-in, by the way.
Well, yeah, it's everything. There's no analog stuff anymore, right? It's just all glass, right? It's just all screens, and it can all be done from laptops, I guess.
Except for the urine collectors.
Yeah.
Those have to be vacuums.
Available at Canadian Tire. Vacuums.
Nice.
Yeah, so just on the topic of what we've been reading lately, our friend Adrian Tchaikovsky, I just finished Alien Clay. Not sure if anyone on here has read that one, but it definitely brought his zoology background into sharp focus. I really enjoyed it. Just a quick summary. It's about a biologist named Arton who basically is like rebelling against the fascist government on Earth. And when you do that on Earth, in this Earth, you are exiled off the planet to a labor camp planet. And the planet that he ends up on is vastly different, obviously. And he goes about essentially discovering the local wildlife while also trying to basically force an insurrection against the totalitarian regime that's present on that planet. So it's a bit political. It's very a lot of bioscience in it, and yeah, quite a bit of fun. Really liked it actually. In a pretty smooth read.
I like that one too. And it's funny
Yeah.
because I had just finished reading Service Model and then I went straight into reading that one, the two Adrian Tchaikovsky books, and they are so different because Service Model is kind of a funny romp and Alien Clay was dark. Like it was
Yeah.
a good, but
Yeah.
dark, right? Just such a different beast from Service Model, which I think came out maybe back to back or very close to each
I
other.
think so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely a recommend for sure. So I was already a fan, and that did not change it for me for sure.
He's a versatile writer, that guy.
Indeed.
Well, I could talk about a book I've been reading. I've been reading a few, but one that I don't know that I've mentioned to anybody is I was reading Exodus by Peter F. Hamilton, which is a second book in the Archimedes Engine series. So it's a new series that, or it's the first book. Sorry, this is the first book in this series, and it's a weird series of sci-fi tropes as Peter F. Hamilton likes to do. He really mixed together so many different ideas, and I feel like it's a book that some people would like and other people wouldn't like. I personally thought it was great, and yeah, I'm gonna read the next books in that series as soon as they come out.
Very cool. So 4 of us went to go see Project Hail Mary. Has everyone seen it? Kevin, you also saw it.
I did. I saw it. Yeah.
Ryan, did you get a chance to see it?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. So we've all seen it. I thought it was fantastic, but I'd like to hear, because I know Hannah, James, you guys have not read the book. So I'd love
Yeah,
to
are we
hear
the
your
only ones? Are we
No,
the
I
only ones
haven't.
who
I haven't
read it?
either. I haven't either.
Ryan's not read it either.
No.
So I'd love to hear your take on that, because as a lover of the book, I was very happy with the movie. It wasn't mind blowing. It wasn't like a game changer in terms of new film, but it was exciting to watch something that just worked and it was fun. Like I actually laughed and giggled. I had fun. What do you guys think? How'd you like Project Hail Mary?
Yeah, you came out of the cinema absolutely buzzing, and I think that was mostly attributed to how strongly it stuck to the book, right? Like for a movie adaptation, it really hit most of the beats, is what you were saying.
Yeah, pretty much. It felt like I knew where it was going, so I was happy where it went.
Yeah. And so I didn't have that like joy of like, they didn't fuck it up, you know, but I still really enjoyed it. I didn't come out on quite such a high as you did, but as time has gone on and I've kind of sat on it. And also I think the press tour that they're doing with Ryan Gosling is just perfection. Like the way that they're using his charm and charisma to promote like science is great. Thank you. I'll have more of it, please. If you want to teach me about science and Ryan Gosling is the teacher, anytime, sign me up. But yeah, I think that the movie needs a rewatch. I need to go back and revisit it because I keep on thinking back on fond little moments from it. And I'm like, oh, that really worked. Oh, that was really cool. So I think I'm going to go back round 2.
Ryan Gosling is pretty dreamy, isn't he?
Your words.
Yeah.
That's true. It's just true. It's just
No,
true.
he's
No one's
dreamy.
arguing that. Come on.
He's a good representative of the Ryans of the world for sure.
The Canadian Ryan. So
Very, very proud of him.
That's right.
I haven't read the book either, but in a flip, it made me want to read the book because I think like many of us, I enjoyed the movie immensely. It didn't change my life. I didn't come out sort of a different person, but it was supremely enjoyable. Ryan had the science and the charisma and all of the things. There was this sort of, it didn't take itself too seriously either. There was a couple of funny little bits that were just silly and, made my kids laugh. It made me laugh. And I'm not a huge aficionado rather of the Harry Styles catalog, but I've been listening to Sign of the Times nonstop because it's a banger of a song, and having it in that karaoke scene was fantastic and gave us a moment that I think the movie really needed before they switched gears. But yeah, I do think it won on all counts for just being an example of a really fun movie to see in the theater.
Hannah, your experience with the movie was my experience with the book. I came away not sure how I felt about it until like a day or two later, and I was like, no, I did really like that. I'm glad they took those chances because that's a big risk, right? To introduce an alien that isn't rampaging through the city streets in some sort of Godzilla form is a movie risk, right? Like it's something that authors can be afraid to portray, and filmmakers almost always are. Not to tread into film territory too much. I'm cognizant of sitting within the group of film clubbers here who know monsters and aliens in film far better than I, but I do feel like it's the same. When I read it, I was like, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure how I feel about this. And then I came away better for it. So when I was with you guys and we saw the movie, I had Tristan's reaction as well. It was like they didn't, yeah, like you said, they didn't fuck it up.
That's the thing as well. Like they really needed to get Rocky right. That was kind of the make or break of the movie. And it really felt to me, as someone who doesn't even know the Rocky character from the novel, that they did. They nailed it. I also had a bit of a hard time separating it from The Martian. The first kind of third of it is so on the same page as The Martian, like Man Lost in Space. It was hard not to constantly draw comparisons. Did you guys feel that when you were reading the book?
I did. I absolutely thought the exact same thing. Is that this is like a version of The Martian without all the potty mouth, and I mean I thought it was better. I thought it was better than the Martian when I was reading it. But yeah, certainly, Hannah, that was also what I felt.
I think over and above just it being a fun sci-fi movie, which it absolutely is on every level, it subverted two pretty important narrative tropes. The first being the hero character, right? The guy that we all assume was just selfless and in it for the love of humanity, right? Which no spoilers, but may not have been the case. And then also just making the alien not the surprise. Right? Like the alien wasn't used as a gag or a hook so much as it was just like he's a part of the story. He's an important part of the story, and he's an important part of the story because he's a character. He's a living being, the same as the human we're following, right? Like those two pieces of it made it made it a story that felt really different within the genre by not diving in headlong into the like hero story alien jump. Like that's what to me felt so fresh about it, was aside from just being a great amazing movie production, all those pieces, was just the idea that both those things were just such a lovely surprise and just made the whole thing feel so much I don't know, I just felt more drawn in the whole time because I was just like, where are we going, what is happening, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, you're so right. And I think we do need to give credit where it's due there, because how difficult is it to bring something new to a sci-fi movie these days? Like what hasn't been done? And the stuff that you're talking about did feel fresh. It did feel new. I know a lot of talk has happened about the design of the spacecraft and the way that the spacecraft moved in the film, which felt really unique and different to kind of the typical stuff that we've seen before. So it's exciting to see something that resonates with the type of sci-fi films that we love, but also brings something new to the table as well. That is pretty special.
I agree. And in Rocky, but back to the Rocky character, he was so alien in physiology and everything, but in his demeanor, he was more human than human, right? He was more human than Grace. And like his emotional outbursts, and Grace is almost the one calming down Rocky to be a little bit kind of less anthropomorphically human emotions, and so I actually really thought that was endearing. And the Rocky character was so lovable, and that was exactly what was needed. Even though he was some strange rock and lived in a high pressure atmosphere and all these sorts of things that were so foreign to us.
I will mention Rosewater, just finished that. That is the next book of the month that we will be talking about. So I'm not going to say too much, but really enjoyed it. And we also talked to Tade Thompson on the show. That'll be coming out soon. And he was awesome. I feel like we could have gone another hour with him, the hour went by so quickly. So that's another book that recently we read, and yeah, looking forward to talking about that.
I have not squeezed another book into my brain over the last month or two, but other than Rosewater, which I agree was excellent, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. But I've been watching, and I'm curious if anyone else has engaged with this too. My wife and I have almost finished watching season 2 of Paradise on Hulu, or I guess Disney Plus, and it's sort of a light sci-fi, if you will, but it's a post-apocalyptic kind of political thriller created by Dan Fogelman, and it's got Sterling K. Brown and Julianne Nicholson and James Marsden as sort of the main characters. I'm not going to say a lot about it, but it is, I mean, Sterling K. Brown plays this kind of modern warrior poet, Secret Service agent, and I mean, talk about charisma. I mean, he's just incredible in this role, I think, and it's a very heroic, good dad, upstanding Secret Service agent, but he's fantastic, and you kind of can't take your eyes off of him in the role. But it also has a fractured timeline too, which they go back and forth between present day, where the world has ostensibly come to an end because of a natural, we think, disaster, and they've built this city-sized underground bunker in Colorado thanks to the goodwill or the machinations, I don't know how you say that, but of a billionaire. And it's I think it's a really fascinating show, and in season 1, the episode where the shit hits the fan is harrowing. It is a really well put together episode, and you feel for the people who are, like the president and his staff, who get to go on Air Force One and retreat to the bunker, and then there's all the other people that they have to leave behind. And it is, again, it's not high philosophy, but it is a super enjoyable watch, and I would highly recommend it.
The thing about it that I think it kept me interested in it, because I mean, there's lots of great things to love about it, James Marsden being one of them. Always watch that guy. But it starts out as one type of story, or what you think is one type of story, right, about the president and the guy watching him, and then a murder, and it just snowballs into like what feels like almost 3 or 4 different genres of storytelling, to the point where like it almost unravels, and then they pull it back in, and then it almost unravels and they pull it back in. And so it's there's something there for kind of anybody, like any kind of show that you would like. There's something for you. It's crime drama, it's a bit of sci-fi, it's action, and Sterling K. Brown, who is just fantastic to watch, as you said.
I agree. I think that's a really good point, that there kind of is, if you're not a really high end sci-fi watcher, that doesn't matter here. I mean, I'm still classifying this as a sci-fi show, and I think we're heading more in that direction as the seasons progress. But it's, it's kind of a political thriller. It's a murder mystery. It's a relationship drama. There's lots of good stuff in there.
Hey, can I give you guys an update? There, as we've been chatting, the Artemis crew have done their translunar injection burn. So this is a almost 6-minute burn to get them into heading off to the moon. So as we've been jibber jabbering here, they've done this maneuver to get them out of Earth's orbit and heading towards the moon. So they were experiencing 1G for about 6 minutes, and now they are floating once again, heading off for 4 days towards the moon, farther than any human has ever gone.
That is amazing.
Very cool.
I love hearing that.
Do you think they're going to get paid double time for Easter Sunday?
Excellent question.
So, guys, I am very happy to be in this call with the five of you. It's been 5 years of doing the show, and it's been super fun. Every 2 weeks, sometimes more often, we've had episodes come out. 150 episodes is something to be proud of for all of us. And a lot has changed, a lot has happened. We started off thinking we were just going to be nerds that just talk about books, and that is what we do. But we've expanded, and we've had amazing guests on the show, and we've got new hosts that come on to talk about other things. So I wanted to say thank you, first of all, for being a part of Tales from the Bridge. It's been awesome. I love being a part of Tales from the Bridge with you guys. Without you guys, the show would not exist. And yeah, I guess maybe a first question to ask is how have things changed in the last 5 years?
Well, it was a pre-pandemic thing where we just had a book club that churned into a podcast after, we all got thrown into lockdown, and it's kind of grown a life of its own. So yeah, it's a lot's changed, and there's been an evolution when we started doing interviews. Like, I think we went from like reviewing books, and then we started attracting authors. I think the cool thing was that we found in the sci-fi space that like sci-fi authors are kind of available, right? During lockdown, especially, right? And that kind of snowballed, and now we've got Film Club, which is pretty awesome. We got like we kind of rounded out the show, and it's I think it's still an evolving thing, but certainly like it's uh, I think it's the formats have kind of our base formats kind of stayed the same. The interview things are kind of, the interviews and stuff. We tried other things, but in general, I always describe it as sort of like my bowling league that I belong to, and it's just a fun hobby to get together with like-minded people and talk about uh, a really cool genre that I think has come into its own, in particularly in the last 10 years. So it's great to be able to cover that. I don't know that it's getting enough coverage. When we look at what sci-fi used to be in the 60s, 70s, and 80s versus what it became as it evolved in the 90s to into the thousands and 2010s, it's it's become a much bigger umbrella and a space where people are fielding really cool and creative ideas. And that's not just in the book space. I think if you look at film, and we've got our film clubbers with us today, like you know, what are most people don't know they're into sci-fi. They think that maybe they're into speculative fiction, or they're into some kind of alt or sort of boutique type of film, but really it's just sci-fi, right? And if you
Everything's
look,
sci-fi, really.
yeah, it's like you look at what the number one genre that people are taking in, or maybe in the top two or three, it's sci-fi, and whether you like it or not, you're probably watching and reading a sci-fi book or film right now. I don't know. That's a clumsy way to put it, but
Well, then let me ask you
yeah.
guys, um, what what are we doing here? What is it about science fiction that really draws us from film and books? What is it about science fiction that you guys love and want to talk about?
So I get into sci-fi because of two things. Cool ideas that make me go, oh, that's neat. And also escapism. So a lot of people make fun of the nerds who watch sci-fi because they're in it for the escapism. And I mean, it's not that my life is bad. I've got a great life, but I also love the idea of escaping into these other worlds. Fantasy does that too, but sci-fi is a bit different because it mixes a little bit of intellectual intrigue into that escapism. And like I read a lot of different things, but I remember at some point before we started our book club and the podcast, I remember just throwing up my hands and saying, "Ah, the hell with it! I'm just reading science fiction. I like it. This is what I enjoy doing. I'm just going to read sci-fi." So for me, the thing that draws me in are those two things, those different ideas and escapism. And I know I can get them different in different genres, but to me, sci-fi is the best one to draw me in with those.
For me, for the most part, even though again, like sort of focusing on it as a specific genre to talk about consistently is sort of new for me. The one thing I'm discovering is there's almost nothing either narratively or emotionally that can't fit within the framework of sci-fi. right? And that's just, I don't know if that's true for every other type of genre, right? Like there's the others feel more narrow in terms of what's possible in the storytelling, whereas I feel like within the realm of sci-fi, there's, every archetype, you can explore every archetype in every situation, and every possible story direction can all fit within it, whether it's light sci-fi or hard science. There's always a place to go, and I agree with Kevin very much that it definitely is often fueled by the huh. the of the possibility, right? Which is again like such a jumping off point for so much of the stories we love. So yeah, that's why I'm in it for sure.
I think for me, I always just considered myself a movie fan. Like I just was like, I'm a cinephile. That's two-thirds of my personality. And then I took a step back and realized that my favorite movies were all science fiction. And I was like, wait, am I a sci-fi nerd then? What's going on here? I make myself feel better about this by convincing myself that the nerdy element around sci fi, I think, is mainly associated with like the lore that's attached to stuff like Star Wars and Star Trek and the real nitty gritty that people tend to really hone in on. Whereas for me, like I love all that stuff too, and world building amazing. Don't get me wrong, not trying to slight the nerds. I'm one of you. But I think it's like, how else can we describe it but than saying like it's really cool. Like like the stuff that people come up with and these ideas that are so much bigger than the reality that we live in, but then are made to feel like part of our world. It's really cool. It's that, it's cool.
I would also point out too that of all the genres of literature and entertainment and things that we consume and enjoy, for me, science fiction and fantasy, I'm going to pair them together because they're both in the same bucket for me. They took root really early for me, as a very young child. My love of these things, from again the basics of Star Wars and Star Trek and Space 1999 and all of those things. And you can enjoy them on a certain level as a 5, 6, 7, 10, 15-year old, and then you can grow with them too. You can still enjoy those things that you enjoyed back then for different reasons, and you can dive further into the lore or appreciate different aspects, but then you discover that there are other authors and other filmmakers and other stories to be told and other themes to be explored. And as a kid, too, Kevin, I fully agree. The escapism piece is a huge part for me, just on the most basic, visceral level. But it is also that thematic, like, oh, well, we can talk about things. And, people, it's a cliche now even to say it about things like Star Trek, but we can talk about things in our real world indirectly through sci-fi, and it's often done very poorly and it's often done brilliantly. So I think and it doesn't have to be an on the nose kind of treatment. So yeah, and from the Millennium Falcon to the most sort of subtle little time travel stories, there really is something for everyone if you let yourself to be open to it, I think.
I like that it's a creative space where you get to trial balloon different ideas, and I think it has not just technological ideas too, right? There's the science side of it, of course, but there's also a social side of it, right? And you get to demonstrate and look at different ways of living and being and existing, and that's a pretty special space, I think, and that to me is a big draw point for me, or particularly given the political climate that we're living in and some of the forces that are at work in the world that we're currently living in at this time. So I think the fact that sci-fi has evolved into the kind of space that it is at this time, it couldn't be more timely.
I don't know where this came from, but it just seems like there were many books and film when I was younger where it was like you're a daydreamer. Oh, you're a dreamer. You got to get your act together. This was this kind of thing that parents in film and movies had for kids that daydreamed. Oh, you're just trying to escape. And it was almost like a negative thing. And it wasn't until I was a late teenager, I remember either reading an interview with Tolkien, probably reading it because I don't think there was much footage that I would have seen back then. But when he was asked about Lord of the Rings, there were so many people that were trying to make religious parallels or find all this symbolism. And he brushed that off and said, it's just escapism. And that was the first time I remember thinking, oh, it's okay to escape. And there was some sort of bad stigma for, oh, you got your head in the clouds, or you're a daydreamer, or you're just trying to escape. When it wasn't until till later when I heard Tolkien say it, and that's what convinced me it's okay to escape. And it's okay to find meaning in your escapism, which is what you guys all just said. So, yeah, I think that's why we all do this, is because it's even when we get together to talk about it, we're kind of escaping. Just like when you're bowling, you're escaping to that little game that you're playing, and that's kind of what we're doing. So yeah,
Well, and it's worth noting that most things are escapism. You could be watching
yeah,
the news all the time. You're just escaping. The news is still, entertainment in its own way, right? It's sports. It's if you're watching doctors on TV, it's escapism, right?
yeah.
Does your form of escapism share new and interesting ideas and transform and evolve who you are? And I think that's a worthy question. And if it does, then maybe it's a useful escape, right? You're getting a twofer out of it.
Can I ask you guys, are there any moments that we've had on the show that really stand out to you? Any books, films, interviews, anything that really stands out that you want to share with us and listeners?
I think, again, one of the beauties of this podcast is that we do get to rub virtual shoulders with, some really great artists, great writers and people who can dream this stuff up. And there's been, so many of them have been great and inspiring. And, but for me personally, since I joined the show, people like Kate Trefry from Stranger Things was just a great unexpected guest. M.R. Carey, who wrote Infinity Gate and the Lucifer comics back in the day, was a fantastic interview. I loved hanging with him for the time we had. Andrew Kolb, a local illustrator and game designer, was super fun. And Andrew's interview I thought was fantastic because half the time he would give this really eloquent answer and then turn the question back on us to get our thoughts, which was lovely. I haven't unfortunately been part of either of the Claire North interviews, but she's always a delight. I think, you guys have done a great job with Claire, and she has done a great job being on the show. Her books are so interesting and thoughtful, and as is she on the show. And I would be remiss currently if I didn't mention Chris Hadfield, too. What a thrill that was to have him on the show and be able to, share some digital space with him, because that was really fun and cool. And the fact that he complimented all of us on our facial hair at the beginning of the show was awesome. So that was
You have 44 minutes, gentlemen.
yeah, exactly. He was great. So thank you, Chris, and everyone who's taken the time to be on the show.
I love reading the books, guys, and I mean, we've talked to lots of authors where I've been like, that was a fantastic conversation. I want to talk to them again because so many of the people that we talk to, they're so much more intelligent than I am. So it's like it's like learning, and I love that we talked to, like when we talked to Tade last week, it was like, yeah, like we could have had another hour. What an amazing teacher. So that's really humbling, and I love that. But I will nerd out, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I just love talking to movie people also. Like when Neil Blomkamp was one of our earliest guests, and I'm still on a high from that. That was like the coolest thing ever. And we had Wes Ball, the director of Planet of the Apes, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That was awesome. We had Sean Gunn. Ryan and I did a trivia episode with Sean Gunn. That was so cool. He was so awesome. And Dominic Monaghan was on one of the trivia episodes. So awesome. So I kind of nerd out with the film people. That excites me, and I'm just kind of dweeby like that. But always blown away by the intelligence and the conversations we have with authors. So yeah, that there's so many to name. Like Hugh Howey recently came on a second time, amazing. Uh, Kim Stanley Robinson, that was a couple years ago. He'll come back again soon, but like just like Kim Stanley Robinson, like I can't believe we spoke to him. So you guys made that come to life. That was without you guys, that wouldn't have happened. That was amazing. So thank you for that. Loved that.
Well, I mean, on that same vein, there's some real history here with some of the folks that we've talked to. We had the privilege of speaking with Robert Silverberg, who's iconic in sci-fi. The kind of the start of real sci-fi as a genre, almost like as it becoming pop literature, and Joe Haldeman as well, right? Those two alone have so many books under their belt and so many years. Robert Silverberg, in particular, his connection with the Hugo Awards, and
Yeah.
I think he's been to every single one except for some in during COVID. Yeah, right. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a pretty long connection he's had to the sci-fi community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
And
think
Greg
I knew
Bear.
that you guys. Sorry, I don't think I knew that you guys had Silverberg on.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wild. One of the very first sci-fi books I ever read in my whole life was The Man in the Maze.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's on that shelf right over there because it's also one of the few books that I haven't traded away or ever let my hands off of. That's very cool. Sorry, just
He had fascinating stories about Isaac Asimov and Philip K. Dick, and I mean, these were
Yeah.
his contemporaries.
Yeah.
These are his contemporaries.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
But
also
also,
had Greg Bear on the show
right.
just before he passed, which was also, he wrote one of my favorite books, Blood Music, which was amazing having him on the show. Yeah.
Another iconic figure is, of course, Neil Clark from Clark's World magazine, and that there's a gentleman who has his finger on the pulse of the sci-fi, contemporary sci-fi, because everybody's sending him his work,
Yeah.
and he and his colleagues at Clark's World magazine are curating and allowing some of the best sci-fi come to fruition for all of us to read for free. Right? It's
Yeah.
available for free.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had some good guests. Ryan Gosling, he was amazing to talk
He
to,
was
such a
pretty
down
awesome.
to earth guy.
Yeah. Ryan
Kept
Reynolds.
on hitting on Sam and
Yeah, we hit it. We just connected. What can I say? You know,
Sam is an attractive man and very charming.
Did he compliment your facial hair though?
No, no, that was just Hatfield.
We didn't actually have them on the show. Just to be clear, the Ryans did not come on our show.
That's right. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin's our journalistic standards and practices.
Truth checking.
one thing I'd like to ask you guys is what are you excited about in the future of science fiction? And maybe just with the show, is there something you're excited about? Is there a book you're excited about? A film coming out you're excited about? Or is there something with real science? Like, what are you looking forward to in the future of what we do and talk about on the show?
I'm looking forward to gas being below 150 again at some point. If if that might be a fiction.
That's
science
real
fiction.
fantasy.
That's
Yeah.
fantasy, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you that I mean, it's a bit of a short-term thing that I'm looking forward to, but Disclosure Day, this is the year that Steven Spielberg releases an Alien flick, and I couldn't be more excited.
That does look
I do
exciting.
think we're going to have to
Yeah.
have a Tales from the Bridge outing to the movies to see that one.
Yeah,
Great
for
idea.
sure.
Indeed.
I would love to
science
see a film club take on that one if you guys don't mind departing the alphabet and talking about Disclosure Day. I'm really pumped about that one too.
Yeah, we'll get Steve on the show, you know. We've had him on the show before, actually, didn't we?
I'm going to call Kevin in on this one.
I'm pretty sure it was an AI version of Steven,
Yeah, but it
wasn't
sounded
Thank you,
just like
Kevin.
him, so let's just pretend it was. I
Is that
talked to
legal?
that
Can
AI
we
for
even
like
do
a
that?
week. I like, but I was pretending Steven was my childhood friend for a week. It was great, and then
It's
I
not
came to my
creepy.
senses.
It's not creepy, Tristan.
No,
I know.
that explains the court order.
So
This,
He's
this
such a
is the intervention section of the podcast episode where we brought in our film friends to speak with Tristan about his unhealthy obsession.
Mhm.
What do you guys think about an actual disclosure day, is that just for conspiracy theorists? Because it just constantly gets more and more and more. Do you think there's going to be something in the future? Do you think we'll ever talk about actually something that's really crazy happening with aliens coming to Earth, or do you think that will always be fantasy?
I feel like one of my favorite comments from a current scientist was Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, in an interview where somebody sort of offhandedly was like, "So what do you think about aliens?" And his response I thought was quite good, and it was that there's a high powered camera in every single person's hand and thousands of domestic flights a day. And it just so happens that we've never, when you frame it like that, right, it just makes you wonder. And like, especially when you think about the government agencies and what they've barely been able to, they've barely been able to operate their regular jobs, let alone massive conspiracies that would take generations of secrecy. I don't know, not to be a party pooper, but
I don't think that's party pooping at all.
it feels a little unlikely. I don't know.
If we had a Venn diagram of believers in alien conspiracies and project managers, they would be exactly zero overlap, because anybody who's ever tried to manage a group of people to do anything or keep a secret or do anything well will know that it just can't be done when that group of people becomes larger than like 6. So if you have hundreds or thousands of people who are trying to keep a secret around, some very large government conspiracy related to aliens, that secret just won't be kept. It will be leaked, and and it will be leaked well. And as you say, with everybody having these high-powered cameras in their pockets, something's gonna leak, like something substantive with good evidence, not crappy evidence, good evidence.
Exactly.
I have a counter argument.
Okay,
Let's hear it.
Okay, it's been 50 years since we went out to the moon, eh? That's a long period of time. Is it possible that something was covered up at some point, say 40 years ago, and no activity has happened since? So maybe there is something to be covered up, but just not all the time, constant activity happening that we'd be whipping out our phones to witness. Just saying.
it's possible. It is. I mean, these things are all.
Come at me, Tyson.
Well, one thing that I find interesting though is, I don't want to. This is probably going to sound way condescending, but a lot of the folks that I know that read science fiction are some of the most pragmatic thinking people that I know. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing going on out there. Like there's a tiny, tiny chance that something's going on, maybe, but not really. Like Tyson, what do you think? There's a reason for that? Why folks that love science fiction specifically and can really get into and know a lot about the science fiction realm, why are we so much smarter than everyone else? Because we don't believe in conspiracy theories, though we love to escape to these worlds where it is real.
It is funny though that you say it that way, because I mean, the people that would most want this to be true, right? Like, and that's the thing is like I think that also just shows the pragmatism, right? It's like who other than us would want this to be true more, right? Like, of course I want that to be real, absolutely. I want Hannah to be right. Like I want there to be something going on, because that's insanely cool. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know why we're such weirdo skeptics. I have no idea, but yeah.
I mean, I think it totally speaks to just our level of engagement. We spend a lot of time thinking about these things and reading about these things and pondering and hoping and then getting disappointed, and so again, to evoke another celebrity scientist, I watched a really interesting little summary video with Brian Cox the other day, the British physicist, and this was the question, like, what's your take on life beyond Earth and life in the universe? And he went all through the most common sort of arguments and theories, like the great filter, and he talked at length about just the sheer distances and time and the trouble, and even if there were multiple civilizations in our own galaxy, those things, the physics of it and the difficulty of communicating, let alone arriving on another planet, is just so hard. So I don't know. I mean, again, I think it is sort of self-evident that we investigate and we listen and we think and we read and we talk about it, and there really only is one logical conclusion, is that like I'm kind of with you, Hannah, in that you're right, anything's possible, but probably not.
I didn't mean to become the conspiracy theorist on the show. I don't know how this happened.
We've been waiting for our Fox Mulder, and we're pleased to have you on board.
I'll step in.
I think, I mean, there's no other genres where people regularly toss around the term FTL, right? Like, like when we get a bunch of sci-fi people together and they talk about a film or a book, FTL comes out. How are they getting there? What's the faster than light drive doing? How have they interpreted that? And that's because you get very pragmatic about what's possible and what's not, and the distances that have to be traveled, and how you might travel them, and how we know we can't travel them, and all of that, right? So, can you deliver an organic piece of, like, a living organism from one point in the galaxy to another? And that's you learn very quickly that is an extremely difficult task, and that then you start getting into the science of it. What does it take for a civilization to get to that point, if that point is even possible, right? If it can survive to that point. And so the variables standing against your ability to travel across the universe and visit another planet are immense. And so that's, I think, why you probably see a higher level of skepticism in the sci-fi genre amongst people who are into it, because we constantly have to grapple with that problem, and we judge our authors and filmmakers on how well they accomplish that FTL problem, and it determines your story. What is the scope of your story? Are you just operating just off planet? Are you within a year of your planet, or are you within some FTL way of traveling, getting into hyperspace, or whatever you're going to call it, whatever your Star Trek solution is to that determines the scope of your story. Is it a space opera or not a space opera, right? And so that's, I think that's why you'll see a higher level of either skepticism or just questioning or inquiry into is there alien life on the planet hanging out?
You just made me think our escapism is in the stories, when for others the escapism is the story of it being real, right? And that's just another form, because I've gone down those rabbit holes on YouTube and been like, I want to believe this is real. I'm just going there.
Is Steven Spielberg watching those videos with you, Tristan?
He sent them to me on a text message.
Is he in the room with you now?
No.
I guess we're going to have another intervention with Tristan.
I can call him and he may answer. Well, maybe another time. Not right now.
Seeking viewers and listener support here for thoughts and prayers for Tristan.
Thoughts and prayers.
This has been awesome having all 6 of us here. I appreciate you guys so much. Anything we want to say to listeners?
Well, I think that we should have our listeners chime in and tell us why they think that maybe science fiction readers are sometimes more skeptical about alien encounters on Earth, or maybe we're actually entirely wrong about that. Maybe that is a misunderstanding that we have. What do you think about that? And also,
Hannah's right.
And Hannah's right. And also, what have been your favorite moments of the show over the years? Are there anything that has really stood out to you? We'd love to hear you. You can come to the website on talesfromthebridge.com, look for our 150th episode, and there's a comment button that you can comment, and you just need to enter your name and email address, and we will absolutely be spamming you if you give us your email address, and we will be selling it to third parties for sure. But still comment. We won't actually be doing any of those things.
Kevin doesn't do sarcasm that often. Wow. That's good. That's believable.
A special treat for episode 150.
And just to say, Tristan, you're kind of the Scotty of the crew in a way that, like, you're down there in the engine room making sure it keeps running and it keeps going, despite the laws of physics or the laws of podcasting. So thank you for all that you do. And did you know as well that I read somewhere that this podcast is actually a prequel to The Expanse? Did you? No.
Can we please
Give
name
it a-
this episode a prequel to The Expanse?
Yes.
That would be fantastic.
150.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. 150 episodes. We wouldn't be doing it if people weren't listening. So again, thank you. We appreciate you so much. More to come from Tales from the Bridge. Stay tuned.
Let's make a, what? How's that possible? That's amazing. Let's make our way over to the bridge.
Am I
What is happening? What is happening?
Your reaction is the funny part, not that you did that.